I'm your host, Felipe Rose, and welcome to the Disco Chronicles and Beyond. This podcast is about the disco era, the music, the culture, and the impact it's had on the world today, and why disco is still so hot. After successfully touring the world for over 4 decades as one of the original co-founders and members of the world-famous Village People, selling over 100 million records, this disco king truly knows a thing or two about the disco era. So sit back and relax and enjoy my conversation with my guest today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Disco Chronicles and Beyond. I am your host, Felipe Rose. Well, it has been quite a crazy ebb and flow of a week, 2 weeks. Some cancellations, no fault to anyone because of technology today. Emails are buried. And then when you schedule shows weeks ahead, you have to send weekly reminders or daily reminders. And then, of course, Wi-Fi problems. So we will execute this show because we did have a repeat broadcast. I want to thank everyone for subscribing and for listening to us and really seriously taking the time to have fun with us. I'm getting some wonderful emails and texting from people on social media telling me how much fun they're having enjoying it. And so without further ado, here goes today's episode. No summary of New York City's dance music history would be complete without legendary Nicky Siano. As the owner and resident DJ at The Gallery, Nicky was electrified by a visit to the loft, David Mancuso's loft, and he became hooked on New York's emerging club scene of the 1970s. As a DJ, Siano pioneered techniques such as beat matching, EQing, and he used 3 turntables, so creating the proto-disco sound via his preferred funky, soul, and R&B records, leading the way, get this, leading the way for a host of figures like the late legendary Larry Levan and the late legendary Frankie Knuckles, Grace Jones, and Lolita Holloway. Siano laid down the blueprint for iconic New York clubs like The Garage and Studio 54. After a hiatus, he returned to DJing in 1996. Now DJing around the world, I can honestly say that the rest is history. Without further ado, welcome Nicky Siano to the Disco Chronicles. Nicky.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Nicky, my God, this book, this ebook, it goes on forever. It's wild. It's wild. It is so wild.
It's only 100 pages so far.
How are you, my friend?
I'm good.
Okay, so we last saw each other in Joe's Pub for the First Ladies of Disco.
Yes.
And you made me laugh because you look like a Cuban drug dealer with your Panama hat.
The Panama hat I had just gotten.
Yeah, because, honestly, I didn't recognize you when I looked over. I was like, who's this? And you're like standing there like, look, like, hello, it's me, Nicky. So listen, the Ultimate Disco Cruise went on and then came back and had so many people literally writing to me saying, love the DJ we have, and we don't want to mention names, but I had more fun with Nicky Siano and you because you guys just kept the party going into late in the night, And I know that on the cruise ship I would leave like sometimes 3:00, but you kept going.
Yeah. Well, we kept going until there wasn't a crowd anymore. That's right. How we usually do it.
Exactly. So, for all our listeners here on the Disco Chronicles and Beyond, this show now is all about you. Can you please, I did the intro of when you began and the loft and all that. David Mancuso and your Technique turntables, EQing, and all that stuff. But for our listeners, tell us, why did you become a DJ? How did that happen?
This was totally a love for the music. I had nothing else that made me decide to be a DJ. I I would stand outside the Stonewall and hear the music, and I just was so moved by this new type of funky dance music. And Robin and I would be outside. I was 14 years old, and we'd be
Oh,
dancing.
what? 14?
Yeah, 1969. And we'd be dancing to the music outside of the Stonewall. And then I started collecting records, and I got my first introduction to actually being inside a club was going to the Loft at 15 years old.
Wow, yeah.
And I was able to see what it was like to be on a dance floor and what it was like to experience the lighting that went along with the music. And I realized on that dance floor that that was what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a DJ.
And at 17 years old, you then opened the gallery. I went to the gallery, and I had gone to David Mancuso's The Loft, which I found extraordinary because The Loft was very much like Paradise Garage, where you, oh, and I wore this for you today.
I got to get your gallery T-shirt.
Oh, well, I will buy it from you.
And you can wear that.
I will buy it from you, my friend. The thing about the Paradise Garage and the
which loft did you go to? 99 Prince Street?
23rd Street.
The loft was never on 23rd Street. Which loft did you go to?
Well, one downtown.
It was on Broadway.
Well, Broadway and
I keep hearing an echo. Why am I? Oh, okay.
I hear. Oh, you're right. It was on Broadway. And then the floors, you didn't leave with your shins hurting and stuff. And I heard that that the dance floor was built on sand, and they did the same thing at Paradise Garage.
Wood. It's built. It's a wood frame. A lot of times you're dancing on concrete these days, and the floor doesn't give. So what happens is there's a wood frame below, and the floor gives a little bit, and your shins don't hurt, and and your legs don't hurt as much, and you can dance the whole night away and not be tired at the end of the night.
Because I know that I used to leave 12 West, and that was a concrete floor. And
12 West was the most uncomfortable floor. Oh my God.
The next day, my chins and my legs were hurting. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And also sometimes the Flamingo, did they have also the same type of build?
Flamingo, I think, had a wood floor. I'm almost sure of it. Flamingo was upstairs from the gallery.
Right.
The gallery was downstairs. Flamingo was upstairs. I remember the night they opened. It was the end of October. We had opened the month before down there. We were originally on 22nd Street, but we had to move, just like David had to move. The building department came in and closed us all down. The 10th floor. What was the other one?
I went to the 10th floor.
The 10th floor, and then there was
Tom Severese was playing there.
Right, and then he went over to 12 West.
Right. You do realize that we're talking about decades.
Right.
A moment in time. A decade, a century ago, and I know that for me,
this is the true roots of the club
that really
scene.
is, yes.
I mean, there was nothing before this except Tacky, Peppermint Lounge, run by the mob. This was an all-new thing because of the Stonewall riots and the law being changed that two people of the same sex could dance on a dance floor together. There was a whole new group of entrepreneurs that were able to open clubs like myself. And it was a time when people who loved the music got to own the clubs, which was
Right.
the first time in history. It was always the mob, it was always someone else, it was always a big business or something like it is now. But that time period from 71 to 76 shaped everything that's
Yes, it did.
going on now.
Yes,
And
it did.
everything that happened afterwards. The Paradise Garage was just a copy of the gallery, bigger.
B-
The Studio 54, same thing. Steve Rebell would hang out under my booth all night, every Saturday night. And that's because we met at Enchanted Gardens, his first club. And, the rest is history, as they say. I think that the most, the thing that I was really known for at the gallery, besides having one of the greatest sound systems ever,
It had an
was
amazing sound. So one of the best.
was that I was able to. I always found the records. I was able to play things first, like Turn the Beat Around, Love Hangover. I mean, if you want to go back, Soul Makossa, Love Steam. These are all the things that I played first. No one else had them.
You broke Soul Makossa, and as a matter of fact, I think you made the first extended play of we call them remixes, the extended play of Love Hangover because you wanted more. And I was there one night when it went on for like, oh my God, it's playing again. You looped
Love
it,
Hangover, the first night I got it, I played it
but you
every
looped it and you
hour.
did something. Yes, yeah,
It
yeah.
was it was just so good. I couldn't
It
get
was.
enough of it. And it wasn't the whole thing is I don't play like read the crowd like DJs read the crowd and no. I'm playing for myself. And everyone's going along for the ride and they seem to like it, but I'm just playing what I want to hear. Like the first thing that pops into my head, oh, I want to hear that next. I want to hear that next. I was in Australia just a couple of weeks ago, and he said, it was amazing. You went through different genres. DJs don't do that anymore.
No,
Like
they
I
didn't.
played a rock record. I played a jazz record. I went into a Gladys Knight um, montage. And people don't do that anymore. They just play the same beat all night long. Um,
But
Frankie Knuckles, my good friend and protege,
yes.
used to say the plateau DJs. They plateau and it's the same beat all night long.
But just when we thought that there wasn't going to be enough, I saw you one night. Because I love looking at DJs. I don't bother them, but I like looking up. I want to see if they look out into the crowd. And this one evening, you were wearing a white shirt, and your hair was so beautiful, and you were just standing. You folded your arms and you played this song, and you folded your arms and you started looking out, and it was Eddie Kendrick's "Girl, You Need a Change of Mind." And I'm thinking, he's looking, he never looks at the crowd. And I think that what you were doing was, let me see what kind of reaction I'm going to get with
Yeah,
this.
I wanted to see what was going to happen.
Were they going to run for the hills or what?
Well, it became, one of the biggest records for years. Girl, You Need to Change Your Mind. I mean, when I started playing in 72 to the time I stopped playing in the 80s, I still put that on for a Rush once in a while. It was a great record all through the 70s. We were creating classics. I mean, I was the first person to play Love is the Message. Love
Yes,
is the
you were.
Message
Yes.
is the basis for everything, every song, everything that happened. If you watch Paris is Burning, it's the only song in there. It's played over and over. It's Love is the
Over and over
Message.
and
Love
over
is the
again.
Message.
Yeah.
And people got it. And it was only 2 minutes and 30 seconds when you first got it. It was so I didn't know what we were going to do with this 2 minute and 30-second group. So I looped it. I went from one
That's what you
turntable
did.
back and forth, and I
That's
was
why it
going
went on
back and forth.
forever.
Right,
And
and
then,
right,
but that was because you had three turntables.
right.
But a
Well,
lot of people didn't find that out till like months later.
and then everyone got three turntables, and it became the coat holder, the third turntable. People put coats on it. I would put on a sound effect
Oh
while I
wait, I'm
was
sorry.
mixing back and
I'm
forth.
sorry. I'm sorry. After you, did you say coat like COAT or coke like
Yeah, you
cocaine or
thought I
coke?
said Coke. No, coat holder. They put their coats on it, like yeah, and they break up their cocaine on it too. But it's useless. It doesn't do anything. People had it all, and but they didn't use it. Why was it there? I had a dream about the third turntable, and that's when I installed it. Was that I was playing "Love Is a Message," and I was playing the sound effect over it while I'm mixing it back and forth, which
You
I
were
needed.
EQing. You were EQing back and forth, and
Yeah,
you could feel it in the room as it was as it would cross across the room from one speaker and then swing back again, and
I
that's
had
what really,
control over everything in that sound system.
as
I
well as
had
the
Rosner. I would drive Rosner crazy. Alex Rosner was my sound man. He was David Mancuso's sound man as well. I would call him up and say, "Well, how can I do this?" And he'd run down and have to change all these things around to make it. And I could literally sweep the sound around
the
the room.
sound would go around the woofers. You could literally feel everything working in the gallery. And like you, I came out at a very young age, right after I'm the generation after Stonewall, so you were there during Stonewall. And like you, I came into the club scene, and I was going to the gallery, to the loft, to all the clubs, Paradise. Then when the others opened, 12 West, and then of course eventually I went to the Anvil, was discovered, and then still after
That's where you were discovered at the Anvil?
at the end. Oh, you don't know that?
No, I didn't know this.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
the Anvil.
At the Anvil, and it was because Jacques was
By Jacques Morali. Jacques
Jacques
Morali.
Morale was looking for a very unique sound. He kept hearing it in different clubs because I was dancing at Roseland, and then I was with a ballet company, jazz company. Then I would sing backup for someone, and then I was a dancer percussionist. And so when he actually saw me, Peter Whitehead brought him. He said, "I know exactly who you're talking about, and I know what it is that you need. We're going to the Anvil." And when soon as he walked in, he heard the sleigh bells. And then he said, he's right up there on that stage. And there I was in a loincloth, breastplate, naked. There was nothing underneath the
Oh.
loincloth. Nothing underneath the loincloth. That was the time. We could be
Mm-hmm.
naked if we wanted to. And
Especially at the Anvil. Oh my God.
yeah, but don't underestimate. Let's not put the gallery
No.
in the
Hey,
gallery. There were naked people dancing on the floor in gallery.
the gallery was, yeah, anything went. And
Well, what
and
was
and you
beautiful?
weren't judged for it either.
No,
It
what
was
was
like no
beautiful
one
was
would give you the side eye if you oh look, he's naked. Okay,
no.
let's hear the next song.
And what was beautiful was is that people just really just felt like it was their living room, like they were home. It got too hot, they would take a shirt off. It got even hotter, they would take their pants off. And so yeah, and I think that because we were all part of that scene, we just looked over. It was like no big deal.
There was this guy who used to blow up my balloons, and he took off one Saturday night because he went to a wedding. And after the wedding, he brought the whole wedding party to the club. And they come in the gowns, and the girl is wearing her wedding dress. They walked out of there at 4 hours later with their slippers in their hands, their dress over their arm, in their just they had their bosoms and the little strap thing they were wearing. And that was it. The garter belt. That was it. And they walked out with their dress over their arm and sweating from dancing all night long. So
No,
yeah,
no,
people used to just take it
yeah.
off. You were too hot, change.
Yeah.
It
So
just
so at 17 years old, you then said, "I'm going to open a club." Like to me, that's daunting to even think about. But you were fearless
I
at
had
17.
I had a great partner at the time.
Okay.
My friend Robin was by my side, and she really was my cheerleader. I wasn't really good at cheering my own. I could produce the product, but to
Right.
say I'm a great teacher, you should hire me. No, Robin did that, and she did it really well. what happened was I was working at the Round Table, and I don't know if you remember,
Oh
but
my God, the Round Table!
John
I used
John
to love
LaFleur.
my white Russians. I used to drink them there, and then snap a lemon 714. For
Oh,
for those ladies and
okay, those
gentlemen,
are a Quaalude. That's
for those that don't know what that is, yes, back in the day, it was a lemon 714, a Quaalude, which was the very best Quaalude.
it's sort of like it's sort of like ecstasy on steroids is a Quaalude.
Yeah, and I
It,
imagine me drinking at the Round Table with a white Russian
a White Russian
snap, and
and a Quaalude.
I would snap my Quaalude in half because it had the line, the
Oh
perforation.
yeah.
You know, you could snap it, and so I would start slow, and then I take my Quaalude with my white Russian because it had milk, and I figured, well, it's gonna coat my stomach, and off I would go into the night. So now here we are, and how lucky you were that you were in a position to now mentor. And as urban myth has it, Larry Levan went to the gallery, fell in love with what you were doing. Tell us about that unique, very unique. You can't say the name Larry Levan and not say Nicky Siano. They come hand to hand.
Well, Frankie Knuckles was the first person. The night we
And then Larry.
right, the night we opened, it was like pandemonium. David Mancuso had closed for the summer, and everyone just came to the gallery. So it
Right.
was like an overnight success, literally. And at the end of the night, um, they would people would be funneling out, and it was the first night, and we had had more people than we had like in 6 months. So there was 600 people there, and this guy came up to the booth and he said, do you need help? Because I really want to help you guys out. I really love the place, and I think it'd be a great place for me to work. And sure, what's your name? Frankie Knuckles. Okay, come here next week, and you could decorate. We need a decorator. He said, I know this guy. He's a little crazy, but he's really nice. His name is Larry Levan. And could I bring him with me? I said, sure, we need as many people as possible. So Larry and Frankie worked at the
Well, it was a
gallery.
triple. It was a trio. It was the Three Musketeers. That's the three of you. Yeah.
Right. Larry and Frankie worked at the gallery from day one that we were open. And they were my decorators. Larry and Frankie both wanted to be designers, literally. And the gallery, that first gallery on 22nd Street, was a fashion industry watering hole. I don't know why, but Stephen Burrows won the Cody that
Oh my
year.
God,
And
Stephen Burrows. I love
Stephen
this
was
so
a good
much.
friend of mine, and he came to the gallery every Saturday night. And then Willie Smith from Willieware became a good friend of mine, and he got into the gallery. Then Calvin Klein would come, and this one and that. Everybody who was in fashion over those 2 years that we were on 22nd Street would be at the gallery with all the models, and they'd be wearing their designs as
I'll
they
tell you
walked
exactly
in.
what I will tell you exactly what they were in because Stephen Burrows took me shopping and had he said you have to get Elsa Peretti bracelets,
Oh yeah.
Lottie La shoes, and then his outfit was very loose fitting, but it was like he would sew and then turn the pants around so you could see the stitching on the outside.
Right.
And
And
it was stunning. The colors were stunning.
the colors were always magnificent. Well, Larry had done cap sleeve T-shirts. I don't know if you remember; it was all the rage with the little sleeve like rolled up, but it wasn't really rolled up.
But it wasn't really
It
rolled
was
up.
cut that way. And Larry started wearing those T-shirts, and he had designed that cap sleeve T-shirt, and I started wearing them. And Larry was so proud of that design, he was going to put it out and he was going to make $1 million. And one day we went to Capezio to buy I was buying
Capezio's on Broadway.
a pair, actually on McDougal Street in the
Oh,
village.
there was one
Yeah.
uptown. There was one uptown.
And the whole window was filled with cap sleeve T-shirts. And Larry went nuts.
Oh my God.
And that was a key moment that he he said to me right there on the steps, "Do you think I could be a DJ? Would you teach me, like, show me a few things on the turntables?" And that's exactly what I did. I took him back to the gallery and we played records, one on one. Like, he would try to do a mix and I would say, okay, try this, try that. And just like what people did for me, and the people that did that for me were like David Rodriguez, Michael Capella, Richie Kazar, Steve D'Acquista, Francis Grasso.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it was just an art that was passed down. And the thing about DJing back then is we were all friends. It was like a unit.
There was no competition
None
amongst each other.
There was so much work. People didn't. There was no thought of competition, and in addition, we would all be playing the same records basically because there wasn't that much dance music out yet. It wasn't being rolled out like it was in 76 and 77.
Until everything that you guys were playing then started, they couldn't get to radio because radio didn't want to touch it, and it started jumping on the charts and climbing the Billboard charts, and suddenly
on the sales chart. It would climb the sales chart.
And then radio said, oh, I think we're missing something here. But it was you guys that pushed this music, and people thought, well, I need to know what this is. I'm going to run out and buy it. And that's how, thank God, all the artists that you guys were playing suddenly started to become stars.
That's right.
And they started to make money because it jumped to then radio latched on, of course, as you know.
Right. It's same thing. I mean, Woman and Wild Safari.
Oh, Barabbas. Which one was the one by Barabbas?
Those were both by Barabbas.
Those were both by Barabbas. Oh, my God.
David went to Spain that summer. He brought that album home. He brought 10 copies home. And he gave them to all of us.
Are you serious? I heard it that summer.
I wrote about it. It's in chapter 4.
Okay. Oh.
So anyway,
I'm in the middle of writing my book. It's daunting. So but
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
It's a lot of work. And
so David Mancuso brought back Woman, and that took off.
Brought back the album and gave it to the 10 of us. And then Billy Smith came along, and he had this record, Love's Theme, and Barry White, who they were going to throw those records out.
They were,
Literally, it was considered a dead album. They were just throwing it out. And David Rodriguez and I went to their distributorship, and we just brought the albums home because they'd had the funny picture of Glodine and the Love Unlimited with the big afro hairdos and the big nails like
the nails. I was just gonna say the nails. They curved. The nails they curved.
Yeah, they curved. And I was like, what are these girls doing? And
but imagine
this is their producer Barry White, and David says, "You mean their pimp?"
Because it
was too funny.
He had the big hat and the big coat.
Yeah, it was just so typical. Like it was very much like it wasn't cutting edge. It was just the status quo. It was just what was out there. And what was in the movies, Superfly and stuff like that. It was funny. So we brought it home because we wanted to look at hang it on our walls. And then we played Love's Theme and we went, oh my God, this record.
It was gorgeous.
Fantastic. And we started playing that. And that's the biggest one that we had so far that hit 81 without any airplay. So it went into the top 100 on the sales chart without any airplay. No. We all got a gold record for that from Billy Smith. He handed us a gold record for that from 20th Century. And then he trained Ray Caviano, who, of course, went on to do Warner Brothers and was the promotion man there, and, did Change and Search and Holiday, and Luther Vandross, I guess, was a singer on those things.
But he was a singer, but there was also another powerful singer, but she was the Diva Gray, but it was Luther's voice that really just
blew that out of the water.
Yeah.
And then he was gone because he already had a contract. He couldn't even sign with Warner's because he was already signed to Columbia. They were taking him somewhere, and they took him
Right, right,
far.
right. And
Yeah,
Ray Caviano then received got his big payday with his own to start his own label, RFC
RC
Records.
Records. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just amazing. Now, do you remember the days of the Billboard convention at the Hilton Hotel? Wasn't that extraordinary?
Yeah, I spoke on those panels. I spoke on several of them. I have pictures of me on actually I'm in the Billboard magazine from that year, speaking on the DJ panel and the another panel. And this is how bad I was by the time that came around, which okay, I'm playing since 71. That's 75. Now I'm not I was getting 7 I think that was 76 actually. I did that. And they had 10 DJs on this dais, and they asked all the DJs the same question. By the time they got to me, I was in a heavy nod. I was nodding out. I was nodding out right on the table. And they said, Nicky, what do you think of that? And I wake up and I go,
Oh my
I
God.
agree. And the whole place goes nuts. 5,000 people in this ballroom and they're
Huge
going
ballroom, yeah.
crazy. Yeah. And it was like all that convention. That's all I heard. I agree. Ha ha ha, Nicky.
The beautiful thing about the Billboard Awards there at the hotel, when the evening came to hand out awards to all the artists, and then Village people received like one or two with the cube, the pyramid
Right.
cube.
Yeah.
We got three of those. But the interesting thing was the beauty of it was that I turned around to look, and there's Village people on the dais, on the stage, and then you had the Richie family, and Sylvester up above me, Grace Jones, Donna Summer, Paul Jabbar. It was like DC LaRue.
Right.
Everyone was there together, just
Yeah.
sitting there, looking at the invitees, the attendees there on in the ballroom, and it was it was a magical night. Not It wasn't televised, nothing, and
No.
yet the grandeur of it was stunning. The whole
I'll never
thing.
forget. I mean, that the before DC was actually signed to Casablanca, that Neil Bogart, the year before, he said, and this year is going to be Neil Bogart, the president of Casablanca, was at the dais, and he was, and this year is going to be the greatest year ever because we just signed DC LaRue, and the place went crazy. And yeah, it was the grandeur of it was quite well. It was quite well done.
There was
It was Bill Wardlow really saw an opportunity to cash in on the market, and he was really smart about it because we were selling records. I mean,
yes, we were,
it was
and
never in
we were all
history
we were all
was the
making money. We were all making money.
and there was never another promotion avenue besides radio that could make a record a hit. That never happened before. It was always you had to go to radio, you had to get on radio. No, this time you had the
But the
clubs.
fact, but the fact is, Nikki, you have to truly agree. Radio did not know what to do with disco. They were rock music
No, they
and
didn't.
pop. They didn't, and it wasn't until you guys like suddenly started pushing the records and playing the records, and everyone running out and buying them, and then started charting, and then they realized like, I think we're missing out on a lot of revenue. Let's be nice. Let's join the party. You know. And
Just like with Napster, they did the same thing. They laid back. They said, "Oh, this will go away," But really, they should have started an Apple Music thing before Napster ever happened. They had the opportunity.
yes.
Same thing with disco, but eventually it was out of their control, and they didn't like that. I think
No,
that
they
was
did not.
that
They
that was part of the whole let's kill this monster because they didn't really have control over it. The
Okay, I'm glad you
DJs.
said it because this is what the show has been about. And my first guest when I started, we're in season 3. My very first guest that was suggested. So, Steve Dahl agrees. Steve Dahl was the DJ at the
Yeah.
Kaminsky Park for the record burning thing. He said he agreed that he'll speak to you, and I said to my associate producer at the time, why? Why? And he said, because no disco artist ever reached out to him. So yes, I said, okay, let's do that. We're same age, 69 years old. Well, last year, 68. But he agreed to be interviewed by me, and he did not realize that by burning the records and the LPs and all that, with all that wonderful artwork, was like really burning books, like
It
they did
was.
in
It was
Germany.
totally like burning books.
And I told
And
him, yeah, and I told him, and the sad part about it is that Village People got caught not only with the Live and Sleazy album that was recorded, then came the soundtrack to Can't Stop the Music, and we had to trash. Everyone had to throw their careers were over. Once the disco suck movement
that's
happened,
right.
radio switched through the switch, and it was dead. So they came
Yep.
to the party to reap the benefits, and then they decided to turn the party off and kill the industry.
Because they couldn't control it, and that's the big thing about
But
disco.
I've never heard anyone say it like that, and I'm floored.
And the
And
thing about
thank you for
that
saying it
pile
like.
of disco records, it was R&B records. It was, Stevie Wonder. It was, the Spinners. It was all the groups that were R&B groups before they were ever classified as disco groups. They were R&B records, and that's what they were burning. They were burning R&B records. And R&B has survived. It's morphed
It really has, and
like
so has
everything.
and so has disco. And the interesting thing is that throughout all of my conversations with many people, your name has come up multiple times on several of our shows. And the interesting thing is that while everyone now realized, and we talked about what happened to disco, where did it go, and this and that, everyone, in conversation with like it. Yes, disco died, but it never went away. It went underground. And you guys kept the party going.
House music, baby.
House music. Thank you. Going back, because we were talking about the Billboard convention, I have to give you a little bit of dirt. And I think our fans are going to love it. So our ex-producer up in heaven, the late Jacques Morali, he wanted so bad to win producer of the year. And so for the second year in a row, he lost. And it was Alec R. Constantino's one. So he takes the elevator, goes upstairs to our suite, and because he lost, because they would be giving awards out throughout the evening, but then you would have like two or the three of the big groups perform, and so he goes
Right.
he goes upstairs to our suite. He goes, "I lost. You're not performing." We were like, "What?
Oh my God.
What do you mean?" And he's like, "You're not performing. Let's go." And I'm like, "No, we can't leave. You'll win next year, Nicky. You'll win next year."
I hear. I mean, that's something I would have done. Yeah, really. It's something I would have done. Fuck that.
Oh my God, you did not. No.
It's,
I
it
had to
was,
be the peacemaker. I said, "Do you realize what's going to happen to you and then us if you do that? If we do not perform?"
yeah.
And then the other lay producer Henri Belolo calmed his chest down, because I think you met Jacques Morali.
Yes. Yes.
Very, very flamboyant, very extravagant, and you could not say no to him. But when he lost to Alex Arcon, but the thing is that Alex was putting out gems, Romeo and Juliet, Loving Kisses, just the music that he was putting out was like, they were like plays, Broadway plays.
Right, but come
records.
on. Yeah, you're talking about someone who created dance floor hits that were major pop songs as well. And then you got Alex, who created dance floor hits, but were they ever really pop songs? No.
No, you're right. They
No.
were not. No.
They never
were not.
got to radio, and they never were pop songs. So really, I agree. He should have gotten that award. Really, he had a crossover mind, and that's what business is about. It's about looking around at what's available to sell your product to and selling it to as many people as you could.
And selling the concept
and that's what Jacques was
yeah,
about.
and selling the concept to Neil Bogart, and there was a concept of a gay group that suddenly he took it over to Neil Bogart, and Neil Bogart loved the whole effect of, oh, they look like wind up dolls and little American male stereotypes. Let's make this a pop group and sell it to mainstream. And you're right, it blew up. It went
a
huge.
Gay group that Donald Trump used the song for to walk out to.
Still using.
That is the greatest thing ever because he doesn't get it, and that's that's all.
Well, they don't get it. They don't get it.
Right.
So the thing is that so here we are that our careers and how lucky we were to be in the position to, as young as we were, to be in all of that fabulousness. Because if we were to say, if the history were to repeat itself, it would never repeat itself the same way. We were in a very unique time, Nicky. And we saw it all.
We did.
And we lived it all, and the thing is that when then you and I then finally met each other again, and then we were booked for the Ultimate Disco Cruise in 2020, leaving on Florida.
But you're leaving out that I played for one of the most famous parties at Studio 54 that really put Studio on the map, because they were syncing right before that, was the Bianca Jagger birthday party.
Well, that was a birthday party.
Right. It was the Bianca Jagger birthday party where she rode in on the white horse, and all of a sudden 47 photographers appeared out of nowhere.
It was a very low attended night of people.
It was just her friends, really.
Right. I was a dancer. I was dancing there professionally. I was dancing. Right. I was backstage.
And you led her in on the horse, and I'm playing records, and you led her in on the horse, and they were taking pictures all over the place. And the next day, the Bee Gees were at Madison Square Garden. They got one little tiny picture in the Daily News, and everything else was Bianca Jagger at Studio 54.
So you were playing. You played that night at her party.
Yeah. I played at her party. Yeah.
The interesting thing is that when you work in a club and you come in through the back door or the kitchen, you don't really know. You don't really know who's there playing that.
And that's night. Right. You were down on the dance floor, and the DJ booth was up really in the balcony almost.
Yeah, but I did see you a couple times at Studio 54 playing, and I used to love to stand on the balcony right overlooking just slightly above where you were, and you could see everything. You could see the artist coming up and saying hello and what have you. And again, another amazing time. And the thing is that a lot of people that would go there, and people I knew that were just fascinated by the whole thing, they were like, so when does the cocaine happen? And I said, well, you have to wait. You have to wait. Meaning, when does everyone do it? When does that? And then I said, okay, wait. Okay, here it comes. Here comes the big giant spoon. And that was basically a sign to let the club know that the cops were gone, because they used to walk in to survey the place. And then when the Coke spoon would go across the room, people would run to go to chop up on the tables, and there was a room upstairs. So it was, again, another fascinating period in our lives.
That Studio 54, that unique lighting system done by Broadway people, because it was outside the box. Everything was on pulleys. They would put down a whole new lighting system in the middle of the night, and everything would change. The whole lighting system and the colors and everything would just change. It would change the energy, and it was just magnificently done. So magnificently done. And the club was really the most fantastic club ever. It was
It was,
unfortunate that the door policy was the worst door policy ever.
but it forced people to appreciate the rejection, which made them even try even more.
Yeah,
Let me go back.
that they did.
Let me go back and now let me really buy some real designer clothes. Because I remember that Steve.
And some cocaine.
Yeah, and Steve would stand out there and go, "You, yes, you, maybe no, you can stay, you can go." And he had like a sort of like a rhythm when he went, and he would stand outside and stand on a little box with a puffy big coat, and
Donna Karen's
Donna
coats.
Karen's, which today is a Balenciaga.
Right.
So Steve was wearing
Donna
that
Karen's coats. Yeah.
big giant puffy coat,
Right.
you know. Um,
My friend Diane used to work for Donna when she was designing those coats.
And so now that we sort of covered that period in our lives, then you took a break.
We were talking about Larry and Frankie. You wanted to talk about Larry and Frankie.
Well, we did, and then we segued out of that. But then you told the story of the two of them, of the T-shirt, and then Frankie did the same thing. He wanted to learn.
Yeah, Frankie actually, they really hung out at the Continental Baths, and that's where Larry started playing first of all. And Larry was asked to do the club in Chicago, and he didn't want to do it because he had hooked up with Mike Brody, and they were going to open the first club, which was Reed Street. So he asked Frankie to do it. So Frankie went to do the Warehouse in Chicago, and house music, baby.
Okay.
The king of house music.
Yes, absolutely.
But Frankie and I were friends until the day he died. As a matter of fact, I spoke to him 3 days before he died because I had sent him my movie, and he returned home and he went to sleep and he died in his sleep.
Yeah, well, I saw the movie and it was wonderful. I mean, they really captured, your story in the movie.
Oh, thank you.
And then, of course, with him in it as well, and again, he really developed and brought house music to New York. It crossed.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it.
It crossed over.
No doubt about it.
It crossed over. And then Larry right after that, then the Paradise Garage, then that happened. And then Larry then left. And so what was his transition from where he was at into Paradise?
Well, he met Mike Brody, and they opened the club called Reed Street, which was like the first gallery, a small version of what they wanted to do, the Paradise Garage. And they also got closed down by the buildings department. And then they moved and they got the Paradise Garage, and they didn't have the money to build.
Yeah.
They didn't have the money to build that space, so they ran these under construction parties, and they raised money to build the space out. I just want to say that IDJ, my book, is available at patreon.com/Nicky Siano, so you can order it there.
Well, that's what I'm gonna
read along with us.
I'm gonna have people, go to the site. We're gonna have people go to the site, and we'll ask everyone again how they can reach you. And then all of a sudden, we are booked. Now we're going from the late 19, in the late 2000s, 2019, and then suddenly 2020, and then I get a text and a call. Oh, we're booking you on the Ultimate Disco Cruise. And I said, really? Oh, okay. And then I sort of didn't really believe it until I got the call from you. You said, bitch, we're playing together.
We're doing the cruise together.
We're doing a cruise together. I said, oh my God, so it is real. Because I didn't know is it real, is it not real? And that was fascinating. So again, I had a few people write to me last week telling me, we loved when you and Nicky were doing the cruise together. You brought such energy. We have to do it again.
I wouldn't. I don't know. I'll never say never.
Never say never. Yeah, you're right.
I'll never say never. I mean, I did the first one. I did the second one, and it's, if you say disco is dead, go on that cruise and you'll
Right.
see it ain't dead. It's overbooked. Not really. I mean, there was not you couldn't get a cabin on that cruise when it sailed. It was totally booked out, and it because it was so popular. And they had the acts for you too. I mean,
No,
the
they did.
Jacksons, Thelma Houston. It was just one act after another. It was amazing.
Your head
And
spins. It really
yeah,
does. And there's
really,
shows going on all day long and throughout the
all
night.
day long. And
But
we're
then, but
giving
we,
them a nice promo.
yeah, but the sweet thing, Nikki, the sweet thing about it was that we got to work at 12 o'clock at night when
Yes,
everyone was resting and getting and showering and getting ready to go out. They came to us.
us. And it was a real night to remember.
It
People
really
still
was.
remember it.
Well, several nights. You were there. You played for the whole 5 days.
I know it was a great that was a
Yeah.
great cruise. It really was. That second one was phenomenal. The first one was phenomenal. It's a really nice cruise. It's
Well,
a
the first one had that group that we won't talk about, and you said, "Oh my God, they were on the ship." My ex group with the new, with
no,
the
the
new,
second one.
no, it was the second one with
Oh,
the
oh,
with
wait
the
a
new
minute.
members. With
Oh,
the
maybe
new,
it was the first one. Maybe it was the first one. Because you weren't there. That's right.
right, and then
I but I was in Germany and I heard I was going to go on and they said Village People is on. I said, "Oh, really? Oh, I'll see Felipe. Okay." And then they walk out and the Indian comes out and I walk in front of him and I say, "Felipe." And then I look at him and I go, "You're not Felipe." And he goes, "I'm Felipe's brother." And I said, "Bitch, Felipe don't have no brother." And he just turned redder than he was painted. That guy, and they were awful. Oh my God. Let me not speak of the dead. They were awful. That fat guy doing the vocals. Oh my God. Tragic. Tragic.
Nikki,
I don't want to speak badly
oh,
of the dead,
I
but
love you because you
tragic.
will. Oh, I love you because you always defend me and you are always in my corner. But I'm gonna cry.
Honey, you were so tight. I never saw a bad show when you guys were doing it together,
Oh
Felipe.
God,
You guys would bring down the house every
we
time you
did.
were there. Always. And oh my God, Val's brother, oh, just great. It was just a great. You were always so tight. Your
There was a
dances,
tight choreography and 5 part
choreography.
harmony had to be on check, on point.
You had to see the choreography on this new one. There was no choreography,
There was-
and they're all fat and out of shape, and they're trying to move their feet. Oh my God, it was tragic.
Well,
It was tragic.
the thing is that when we were on the cruise together, then I was upstairs watching other acts, and there were fans coming over and saying, how disappointed they were that they were there for that cruise and that they witnessed and saw and weren't very happy. And all I did was just listen and say, "I'm sorry, but I'm here now," because I was never going to entertain in talking about them and have people either get on social media. Oh, I was
Right,
telling Felipe, and then quote unquote sound bites and stuff. Nope, I was just like, "I'm sorry." Well, come at
honey,
midnight.
that you shouldn't say it. That's why I
No,
said it.
shouldn't. Yeah, you should. Right. I won't say it, but you can.
That's right.
So now what I want all the listeners to go and buy your series. And where can they reach it? Where can they reach you? How can they buy it?
You go to patreon.com/Nicky Siano. That's it.
That's it, and
That's it.
it's
It's right there.
now. Are you going to do an audio of it?
Yes, yes. We're laying all that out now. As a matter of fact, we just are talking to people about
Well,
other things. But there's a lot of things going on. I just did a Showtime documentary, a BBC documentary, a PBS documentary, and that's all coming out this year on disco. So disco is dead, and that's all they want to hear about.
right. And so the thing is with me, because I guess because I know your voice and I know how funny you are, and you stick with the facts and stuff. Just hearing you tell your story from doing the audio book, that is what is going to be very entertaining,
Right.
because you really you're very graphic when you talk. You're one of a kind. I love you for that. I love
No,
you
I
for
don't
that.
pull any punches. You know what? I have gotten to, when you get to a certain age, you just don't care anymore. It's
No,
just,
you don't.
I don't care anymore. And what are you going to do to me? You're going to blackball, so blackball me.
What is it? Cancel
Yeah,
culture, right?
yeah, please. I am at the end of my career anyway. Please leave me alone. I if something sucks, I'm going to tell you. And if something's great, I also give, look, there's a lot of times things are great and I give them multiple props.
Well, the thing
I'm
is that
very appreciative
but
of great entertainment.
because I know you and I've known your it's not myth, it's a fact. And I've known you through the years and the decades, people that you've mentored and acts that you supported and broke and made them big, and you just stayed the same guy that I'm talking to is the same guy back then here. And that's the beauty of
Wow.
you. That's the beauty of you. You don't
That
really
that's nice. I mean, I I like that.
It's very
That's
special to mentor someone and for them to then follow and listen to everything that you were giving them and teaching them. And then they went off and did it, and then they became big too, which was
they
amazing.
actually became known for my stuff.
Exactly. That's why you can't, but that's why you can't say Larry Levan without saying Nicky
Right,
Siano and Frankie Knuckles,
right.
Nicky Siano. So on that note, I want to thank you for being on the Disco Chronicles and
Thanks for
beyond.
having me, Felipe. I
And
really
um
appreciate it.
and there's going to be editing and fun stuff that's going to appear while we're speaking, and it will make you laugh. You'll receive a copy of the show so that
Oh,
you can
thank
put
you.
up all over social media.
Oh, great.
So I want to thank you again. I love you to death. And there's anything, I'm here for you. Just next time you show up to support another artist, sit down, stay sitting, because I went to look for you. You were gone from Joe's Pub.
Yeah, my back started hurting me at the
Yeah,
end of the
but
night.
Joey Arias said he left. I said, yeah, he's gone. So, but thank you.
Sorry. You're right. You're right. You're absolutely
That's all
right.
right. And this summer, you're coming down the shore with Diane.
Okay.
That's a definite, okay?
Okay.
All right, so
Sounds great.
again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for listening to this episode of the Disco Chronicles and Beyond with legendary Nicky Siano. And we'll be back again. We had a lot of fun with the great Tony Orlando. And let me tell you, he had a ball doing it and called me the other day to say that he loved the show, all the editing. So with what Nicky has just tossed on this table, Estella's gonna be insane and crazy putting edits and things that I can't even imagine where our mind is going right now. Nicky, you're gonna be laughing a lot on this episode. So again, I
Okay.
love you. Thank you again, everyone, and we will see you next week on the Disco Chronicles and Beyond. You can find us on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify.com and on Anchor FM. Thank you. I'm your host, Felipe Rose.